Hello friends, this is Nishant Gautam, Associate Professor from the Department of Pharmacology, Laureate Institute of Pharmacy. Friends, after the successful discussion about the histamine and antihistaminics in its part 1, today we will continue the remaining portion of this chapter in this part 2. So let us start to know more about the pharmacology of histamine and antihistaminics. Friends, as we know, there are the three mechanisms through which the release of histamine takes place. And we made a discussion about IgE mediated release in part 1. The second mechanism of histamine release may also either by the exposure of certain drugs, chemicals and or by some physical agents. Certain amines and alkaloids including such drugs as morphine and curare alkaloids can displace the histamine in granules and cause the release of the histamine. And if you will talk about the antibiotics like polymyxin are also found to stimulate the histamine release. Here, some of the opioids induces the histamine release by directly activating the mast cells and causes the flushing and or the pruritus. And here in this table, you can see both of the mediators of histamine release. They are the chemical agents and the physical agents, both having the potency to release the histamine. So we will discuss here one by one. The first one is the chemical agents. The chemical agent like antihistamine. Sometimes what happens, these antihistamines itself induces the histamine release, mainly in case of the histamine sensitive patients. Some patients showing the histamine intolerance. In such cases, this drug may cause the histamine release. And some of this antihistamine H1 type also responsible for the histamine release. And chymotrypsin, compound 40 by 80, detergents, dextran and dimethyl sulfoxide, that is well known as a DMSO. And as already we discussed morphine and other opioids. Here I want to discuss one thing more. Some of the anesthetic drugs also releases histamine directly. They are including uh, atracurarium, mivacurarium, morphine and meperidine. Clinically, it is evident that these releases the histamine usually cutaneously, and it occurs mostly in the 30% of the patient population who are taking the anesthetic drugs. And in addition to this, the another is polymyxin B, polyvinyl pyrrolidine, propamidine, azarpine, and surface active agents. Also, the toxins, venoms, and X-ray contrast media, bradykinin. So these are the chemical agents which having the potency to release the histamine. On another hand, if you will talk about the physical agents like mechanical trauma, radiant energy, thermal energy are capable to release the histamine. So these three are the physical agents. Now we will discuss about the third mechanism behind the histamine release, with the help of a simple diagram. So let us discuss about the third mechanism. Then the third mechanism behind the histamine release is due to the tissue injury. What happens? The tissue injury is responsible for the activation of mast cells. And once these mast cells get activated, these mast cell releases the histamine by the process of degranulation of the mast cell granules containing the histamine. Please do focus on this diagram through which we can easily understand the same. Here, focus on this first point, the tissue damage is there. This damaged tissue attracts the mast cell and mast cell releases the histamine. And further, this released histamine diffuses into the blood vessels. Then focus on this second point. This diffused histamine into the blood vessel causes the vessel to dilate and the blood vessel become leaky, so that the component proteins and the complementary proteins leaves the vessel and attract the phagocytes. Then what happens? Focus on this third point, the blood plasma and phagocytes also moves into infected tissue from the blood vessel. And once these phagocytes moves towards the infected tissue area, they phagocyte engulf the bacteria and dead cells. Then what happens? Just focus on this fifth point, the histamine and complement signaling get ceases and phagocytes are no longer get attracted. And finally, what happens? The growth factor from the white blood cells and platelets, they stimulate the cell division in the skin cell and the wound healing process takes place, and this process heals the wounds. And as we already know that if any infection is there, a grand team works together. That is the neutrophil, eosinophil and basophil. And the basophil also having the capability to release the histamine. So this is how the tissue injury is also responsible for the release of histamine. In continuation to this, let us focus on this diagram for further more detail and to summarize the relation between tissue injury and histamine release at the site of injury. Please do focus on this first diagram. What happens? The mast cell detects the injury to nearby cells, and these mast cell releases the histamine. This released histamine initiates the inflammatory responses. Now, focus on this second diagram. This released histamine from the mast cell increases the blood flow to the wound site or at the injured area. Also, it brings the movement of phagocytes and other immune cells at injured area. And both of these phagocytes and immune cells causes the neutralization of the pathogens. Means both neutralizes the pathogen at the injured area. And in addition to this, this increased blood flow at the injured area causes the wound to swell, redden and become warm and painful. So these are the sign of inflammation. Friends, though we are discussing about the histamine and antihistamines, but for the interest of some, and after the discussion of tissue injury and inflammation, let us give some time to understand how this wound healing takes place. Actually, what happens during tissue injury, the granulation tissue and granuloma develops in response to the inflammation. So focus on this diagram. The inflammatory chemicals are released from the injury, and also the white blood cells seep into the injured area, and in addition to this, the clotting occurs that caused by clotting proteins and plasma proteins, and a scab is formed at the injured area. Then the granulation tissue restores the vascular supply, and we studied here at the injured area the excess secretion takes place due to the dilation of the blood vessels, and also the epithelial cells get multiply and fill in over the granulation tissue. Then what happens? This restored epithelium get thickens the area and matures and contracts. And here afterwards you will see the underlying area of the scar tissues. So we have to know what are these granulation tissues. The granulation tissues is the new connective tissue that forms on the surface of the wound during the wound healing process. These granulation tissues are highly vascularized connective tissues, and granulation tissue grows from the base of the wound. These granulation tissue replaces dead or necrotic tissues. The tissue matrix of granulation tissue consists of fibroblasts. Also, major immune cells present in the granulation tissue, including macrophages and neutrophils. As we already discussed, at the time of injury, our grand team works together, and one of them is the neutrophils. Then the second is the formation of granuloma in respect to the inflammation. Granuloma is an organized aggregate or collection of macrophages. Granuloma is a collection of immune cells formed during chronic inflammation. Granuloma is usually surrounded by lymphocytes. They may also be surrounded by the dead materials. In addition to this, the macrophages, granulomas may contain lymphocytes, neutrophils, eosinophils, multinucleated giant cells, fibroblasts, and the collagen fibers, also called as the fibrosis. Then the formation of granuloma takes place when the antigens are resistant to neutrophils and eosinophils, which are the first responder of inflammatory cells. These antigens are often infectious pathogens such as bacteria or fungi or foreign substances. Therefore, granuloma develop as a result of both infectious and non-infectious diseases. Now, let us discuss what are the similarities between granulation tissue and the granuloma. Both granulation tissues and granuloma prevent the kind of diseases. Both can develop in response to inflammation. Granulation tissue and granuloma provide protection against the infections. Then both are associated with the immune cells. Further, another question arises: what is the difference between granulation tissue and granuloma? The granulation tissue is a highly vascularized, a connective tissue that forms the surface of a wound as a part of healing process. On the other hand, the granuloma is an organized collection of macrophages that forms in response to chronic inflammation. So, this is the key difference between the granulation tissue and the granuloma. Friends, after the discussion on synthesis, storage and release of histamine, let us focus on the metabolism of histamine. Just do focus on this flow chart by which we will study the metabolism of histamine. The metabolism of histamine takes place by the P450 system, and the P450 system metabolizes the histamine by following the two pathways. In the first pathway, the methylation of histamine takes place. Here, the histamine in presence of N-methyltransferase get converted into the N-methylhistamine. Further, this formed N-methylhistamine by the action of monoamine oxidase B, it get converted into the N-methylimidazole acetic acid, and this formed N-methylimidazole acetic acid get eliminated by the urine. Then the second pathway by which the metabolism of histamine takes place, that is the oxidative deamination. This oxidative deamination of histamine takes place in presence of diamine oxidase, and this histamine get converted into the imidazole acetic acid. This formed imidazole acetic acid in presence of the ribose and by the presence of or by the action of phosphoribosyl transferase get converted into the imidazole acetic acid ribocytes, and this formed imidazole acetic acid ribocyte get eliminated from the urine. So this is how the metabolism of histamine takes place in our body. Then let us discuss the clinical manifestation of histamine pathophysiology, or we can say the body's response to the histamine release. What happens if the histamine release is there? We already studied that there is an increase in the permeability of the blood capillaries. This histamine release causes the release of the adrenaline. This release of histamine is responsible for the swelling and the inflammation that already we studied. This released histamine is responsible for the frequent heartbeat, blood clots and the gastric acid secretion. Also, it is responsible for the blood vessel to dilate, and the main effect of the histamine is on the lungs, that is the bronchoconstriction. So all these are the response of the body towards the histamine. Then in continuation to this, let us discuss more about the clinical manifestation of histamine pathophysiology. The symptoms and conditions involving histamine with respect to the histamine receptors H1, H2, H3 and H4. So it is responsible for the autoimmune diseases, skin disorders, gastrointestinal disorders, asthma, overall body pain, cancer, anaphylaxis, food allergies, sleep wake disorder, mood disorder, nutrient deficiencies, autism. Also, the weight disorder, neurological disease, cognitive function disorder, leaky gut, bacterial infections, ulcers, hormone imbalance, vascular permeability, respiratory disorders, blood vessel dilation, seizure disorder, and the motion sickness. So these are some more symptoms and the condition involving the histamine with respect to their histamine receptors. Further, in continuation to clinical manifestations of histamine pathophysiology, the histamine is cellular mediator of immediate hypersensitivity reaction and acute inflammatory responses. Histamine is also responsible for anaphylaxis, seasonal allergies, duodenal ulcers, and the systemic mastocytosis. In case of this systemic mastocytosis, the mast cells accumulate in internal tissue and organ such as the liver, spleen, bone marrow and small intestine. And in addition to all these, the histamine is responsible for gastrinoma, also known as the Zollinger-Ellison syndrome. Now, let us discuss the severity of clinical symptoms associated with histamine release. They are categorized into the three: mild cutaneous, mild to moderate, and severe are also called as the anaphylactic. So let us discuss one by one. Number one, in mild or cutaneous response, we find the erythema, urticaria, and or itching. In mild to moderate response, we find skin reactions, tachycardia, dysrhythmias, moderate hypotension, mild respiratory distress, and finally, in the severe or anaphylactic responses, we find the severe hypotension, ventricular fibrillations, cardiac arrest, bronchospasm, and the respiratory arrest. The histamine ranges from mild allergic symptoms to anaphylactic shock. Just note it down this point. The histamine ranges from mild allergic symptoms to the anaphylactic shock, and these anaphylactic shock may be very severe, may cause the death of the patient. Then histamine is responsible for the decrease in total peripheral resistance and the blood pressure through the histamine H1 initial response and through the histamine H2 receptor sustained reactions. And finally, the histamine increases the capillary permeability, also responsible for edema through the H1 histamine receptors. Now, let us discuss the physiological actions of histamine. Actually, histamine exerts its effect on many tissues and organs. Histamine is a primary stimulant for gastric acid secretion and pepsin secretion through the histamine H2 receptor. Through the histamine H2 receptor, the acid secretion is enhanced by the gastrin and the vagal stimulation. Histamine has a role as a neurotransmitter also through the histamine H3 receptor, both in the CNS and peripheral sites. Now, note this point, the histamine is not a drug, but it is important due to its physiological as well as the pathophysiological actions. Therefore, drugs that inhibits its release or block its receptors have the therapeutic value. Now, let us discuss about the histamine receptors. As we know, the histamine plays an important physiologic role in the human health, and histamine exerts its diverse effect through all its subtypes of receptors. All the histamine receptors belongs to the superfamily of G protein coupled receptors. So, with the help of this table, we will study about the distinctive features of all these three types of histaminergic receptors. So, let us discuss one by one each receptors. So, first focus the type of receptor. So, all these three types of receptors H1, H2 and H3 histaminergic receptors belongs to the family G protein coupled receptors, or you can say all these three are the part of superfamily of G protein coupled receptors. Now let us start the receptors one by one. First start with the G protein coupled receptor, that is the H1 histamine receptor. The selective agonist of this receptor is 2-methylhistamine, 2-pyridyl ethylamine are the selective agonist of H1 histamine receptors. And if you will see, the selective antagonist for this receptor is verapamil and chlorpheniramine. And now let us go through the effector pathway of the histamine H1 receptor. It shows its physiological function through the effector pathway of the phosphatidylinositol biphosphate, that is the PIP2. The hydrolysis takes place, is responsible for the formation of IP3 and diacylglycerol, means the inositol triphosphate and diacylglycerol, which is responsible for the release of calcium from the intracellular stores, so that the protein kinase C activation is there. So with the help of this effector pathway, the histamine H1 receptor shows its physiological role, or also you can say this is the transducer pathway through which the H1 histamine receptor elicits its response. Now let us discuss about the distribution of H1 histamine receptor in the body and the action mediated through the H1 receptor. H1 receptor distributed in smooth muscles, and here it mediates the actions like contraction of the intestine, airways and the uterus. H1 receptor distributed in the blood vessels, and in case of blood vessels it is present in endothelium. and here it mediates the release of nitric oxide and the PgI2, that is the prostacyclin, and it elicits the vasodilation. The H1 receptor is also responsible for the widening of the gap junctions. So it increases the capillary permeability as a response. And H1 receptor also present in the smooth muscle of the blood vessel, where it mediates the vasoconstriction. It is present in afferent nerve ending, it mediates stimulation. It present in ganglionic cell, where it mediates the stimulation. It is present in adrenal medulla, here it mediates the release of catecholamines. It is present in the brain, here it mediates the transmitter actions. So this is how the H1 histamine receptor distributed in the body, and it mediates the different action at the different locations. Now come to the H2 receptor. The selective agonist of H2 receptor is 4-methylhistamine, impromedine, and the dimaplate are the three H2 selective agonists. And the selective antagonist for H2 receptor is cimetidine and ranitidine. Now let us discuss about its effector pathway through which it is showing the transducer pathway or regulating the transducer pathway. It regulates its transducer pathway through the adenyl cyclase activation, so that there is an increase of the CAMP, that is the cyclic 3,5 adenosine monophosphate. So what happens due to this increase of CAMP, the phosphorylation cascade takes place, and this phosphorylation is responsible for the production of specific proteins. So by this transducer pathway, it elicits its effect. Now come to its distribution in the body and the action mediated through the H2 receptor. The histamine H2 receptor present in gastric gland, where it mediates the acid secretion. It is present in blood vessel, here in blood vessel, especially in the smooth muscle of the blood vessel. Here it mediates the vasodilation. It is present in heart. In heart, in case of the atria, it mediates the positive chronotropin. In ventricle, it mediates the positive inotropin. The H2 receptor present in the uterus, especially in rat, it mediates the relaxation of the uterus smooth muscle. And the H2 receptor also present in the brain, where it mediates the transmitter action. Now come to the histamine H3 receptor. The selective agonist of H3 receptor is the alpha-methylhistamine and the nimteid. So these are the two agonists of H3 histamine receptor. Now the antagonist of the H3 receptor. Thiopyramide is the another kind of the antagonist of the H3 receptor. Another antagonist for H3 is the impromedine and the clobenpropate. And if you will talk about its effector pathway through which it eliciting the action, it showing its effect by restricting the calcium influx, potassium channel activation, and by decreasing the CMP regulation. And if you will talk about its distribution in the body and the action mediated, the H3 histamine receptor present in the brain, especially in the presynaptical area, where it mediates the inhibition of histamine release. So this action is responsible for sedation. It is present in lung, spleen, skin, gastric mucosa, where it mediates the decrease of histamine release. It is present in ileum, where it mediates the inhibition of the acetylcholine release from mesenteric plexus neurons. And it is present in the certain blood vessels, where it mediates the inhibition of noradrenaline release, so it is responsible for the vasodilation. So these are the three receptors and their agonist, antagonists, effector pathway, and their distribution in the body with their action mediated. Now, as we know that all histamine receptors are the part of the superfamily of G protein coupled receptors. So let us discuss G coupler proteins with respect to each subtype of histamine receptors one by one. Number one, the histamine H1 receptors. These histamine H1 receptors having GQ type of the coupler protein that couple to the phospholipase C, that is known to be PLC. Then the second type of the histamine receptor is the H2 receptor. The H2 receptor having the GS type of the coupler protein, and that is coupled to the adenyl cyclase and known to be as EC. Then the third type of the histamine receptor, H3 histamine receptor, having the GI and or GO type of the coupler protein, that is coupled to the adenyl cyclase, and also to potassium channels and reduce the calcium influx. Also, it inhibits the presynaptic neurotransmitter release. So this is the specialty of the H3 histamine receptor, that it reduces the calcium influx and it inhibits the presynaptic neurotransmitter release. Then the fourth type of the histamine receptor is H4 receptor. In case of this receptor, which is recently cloned and found, the available data consistent with the coupling to the GI and or the GO coupler protein in the mast cells as well as in eosinophils, that can trigger the calcium mobilization, and due to which it elicits the reaction in the mast cell to show the mast cell chemotaxis. So these are the four types of the histamine receptors with their GQ coupler proteins. In continuation to this, let us summarize the histamine receptors with respect to their distribution and the function. So let us start one by one. The first one is the histamine H1 receptor, mainly distributed in the smooth muscles, endothelium, and the central nervous system. It shows the function: bronchoconstriction, vasodilation, separation of endothelial cells, pain and itching, allergic rhinitis, and the motion sickness. Then the second histamine receptor, H2 receptor, present at the gastric parietal cell, vascular smooth muscle, and the basophils. It regulate the gastric acid secretion, vasodilation, and the inhibition of the IgE dependent degranulation. Then the third is the histamine H3 receptor. It is distributed in the CNS cells and some in the peripheral nervous system, and where it functions that the presynaptic feedback inhibition of the histamine synthesis and release. They also control and release of the dopamine, GABA, acetylcholine, 5-hydroxytryptamine, and norepinephrine. And then the last histamine H4 receptor, it is highly expressed in the bone marrow and white blood cells where it mediates the mast cell chemotaxis. Friends, now let us discuss about some selected agonistic actions of histamine in the humans with its respective receptors. In case of vascular actions, the histamine H1 receptor present in the vascular endothelium is responsible for the release of nitric oxide and the prostaglandin. This released nitric oxide and prostaglandin is responsible for the vasodilation. And in case of coronary vessels, it produces the vasoconstriction. And also this increased permeability of post capillary venules is also there. Then the second H2 histamine receptor present in the vascular smooth muscle cell, here its agonistic action is the vasodilation, which is mediated by the CAMP. Then, in continuation to this, the selected action of histamine on the human heart is through the agonistic action by H1 receptor. It shows the decreased AV conduction in heart, and through the agonistic H2 action, it shows the increased chronotropy and the decreased inotropy of the heart. And both H1 and H2 agonistic action of histamine is responsible for the increased automaticity of the human heart. Now, let us discuss the effect of histamine on the human heart in detail. The histamine affects both cardiac contractility and electrical events directly. Histamine increases the force of contraction of both atrial and ventricular muscles by promoting the influx of calcium and also histamine speeds the heart rate by hastening diastolic depolarization in the sinoatrial node, that is the SA node. Also, the histamine acts directly to slow atrioventricular conduction to increase the automaticity, and in high doses especially to elicit the arrhythmias. Then, with the exception of slow AV conduction, which involves mainly H1 receptors, all these effects are largely attributed to the H2 histamine receptors and CAMP accumulation. Then, if histamine is given intravenous, directly cardiac effect of histamine are overshadowed by the baroreceptor reflexes. It elicits by the reduced blood pressure. Now let us discuss the selected action of histamine, or we can say the selected agonistic action of histamine in the lungs. In case of lungs, the H1 agonistic action of histamine is the bronchoconstriction and the increased mucus viscosity. And through the H2 agonistic action, it shows slight bronchodilation with the increased mucus secretion. And further, the H1 agonistic action in case of the vagus sensory nerve stimulation ending is responsible for the formation of cough. This we can understand by the increased mucus viscosity that already discussed we here. Then let us discuss the selected actions of histamine in human gastrointestinal system. Here the H2 agonistic action is responsible for the acid secretion, fluid secretion and the pepsin secretion in the gastrointestinal system. Further, the H1 agonistic system here responsible for the increased intestinal motility and the secretions. And the selected actions of histamine in human cutaneous nerve endings, the H1 agonistic action is responsible for the pain and the itching. Now, for your convenience, here I summarized all the histamine actions along with the respective receptors. So let us discuss the tissue and the organ system affected by the release of the histamine through the different receptors. Through the H3 receptor, the histamine is responsible for the neurotransmitter release and it affects the central nervous system. Through the histamine H4 receptor, it is regulating the hematopoiesis and it affects the bone marrow. Through H1 receptor, it is responsible for the increasing CGMP. It also affects the bone marrow. And through the H2 receptor, it is responsible for the increasing CAMP. It also affects the bone marrow. Then through the H2 receptor, it is responsible for the increase in gastric acid secretion and it affects the gastrointestinal tract. Also, it affects the smooth muscle contraction through the H1 receptor and it affects the gastrointestinal tract. And through H1 receptor, it is responsible for the increase in the estrogen and it affects the uterus. Through the H1 receptor, it is responsible for the increase in mucus secretion and through the H1 and H2 receptor, it is responsible for the increase in endothelial permeability. Whereas the both endothelial permeability increase and the mucus secretion increase is affecting the respiratory tract. But on another hand, this increasing endothelial permeability affects the skin. The stimulation of nociceptive nerve fibers through H1 receptor affects the skin. And through H1, H2 receptors, it mediates the vasodilation, tachycardia and arrhythmia and it affects the cardiopulmonary system. So, likewise, this released histamine shows the action by the different receptors at these type of the different tissue and the organ system. Histamine also responsible for the increase in release of the leukocytes. So this release of histamine and its action through different receptors These different receptors regulates the different transducer pathway and they elicits the action at the different tissue and the organ level. So this released histamine shows its action at the central nervous system. It affects the cardiopulmonary system, it affects the skin, respiratory tract, it affects the uterus, it affects the gastrointestinum, and it affects the leukocytes. And in addition to this, it also affects the bone marrow. So this is how the release of histamine affects the different tissue and the organ system through its four type of the receptors. So that's all for the day. We will continue the same chapter, histamine and antihistaminics, in its third part. Till then, revise the topic from the book. Have a nice day and thank you.